What's up YouTube, ODST General back again, and today guys we're going to be doing some more Microsoft Flight Simulator, and they just had, I think it's update 11, it's the 40th anniversary update for the game. And this is one of those videos I record and I just have all sorts of issues, guys. Yeah, so I've recorded this probably like 5 times. I've had issues taking off in the plane that we're going to be showing today. I've had issues with recording software, and I thought I finally had it down, and I realized I used a different recording software than usual, which I knew. I forgot that I had the audio set up to record separately through Audacity, which I forgot to do. So I went to upload it, and I was like, oh right, I don't have any audio. And I could do, I guess, voiceover and stuff, but it's not really the same. So anyways, we're going to try this again and see how things go. And we're going to go into the 40th anniversary activity set. So this set basically adds a bunch of flight activities from past Microsoft Flight Simulator games. This includes aircraft that are currently in the game from previously, as well as the new aircraft that were added in. So you've got stuff like the 747, but you've got also other things like the new helicopters, as well as a bunch of the iconic aircraft that they added. So actually, before we get in here, let's go back to the world map and let's take a look at the new aircraft they've added. So we'll go back up here. Keep in mind, I've got some mods and independent aircraft added in here too. So you guys are seeing stuff like the H-145 Airbus helicopter. That's an addition to the game. That's not part of it. But yeah, we've got the Bell Model 407, which was added. We have the JN4 Jenny, which is pretty awesome. I like this one. New gliders. So gliders are a thing now, which is pretty interesting. Taking off in those is completely different. It's pretty challenging, but it makes it a very unique experience because obviously being a glider, they're not powered. So it's all about like getting towed up by another airplane and then trying to keep, the updrafts and stuff, like using them to keep you airborne. We've got the DC-3 Douglas. I haven't had a chance to fly this thing yet, but I really want to because, of course, the DC-3, a very iconic plane, very famous plane. We've got the Spruce Goose, which is pretty awesome. I have had a chance to fly this one, which is really neat. We've got the Cabri G2 helicopter here. The most iconic one to me in this, the Spruce Goose, the Hercules H4, and we'll talk more about that once we get in there. I don't remember seeing these two. These might be new aircraft as well. I'm not sure. There was a whole bunch of aircraft. I haven't seen the whole list, so some of these seem new as well. The Spirit of St. Louis. And yeah, so we've got these. We've got, that one's actually a mod I downloaded. We've got the Wright Brothers Flyer. Yeah, lots of cool stuff. But yeah, like I said, we're going to go back here, get back into activities, and go back to the 40th anniversary stuff. And we're going to check out the Spruce Goose. As soon as I find the mission for it. There it is. So, we've got the mission here. This thing is massive. Massive plane. So, it's got the information here. There is one inaccuracy in this. This says November 7th, 1927. This should say November 7th, 1947. So, somebody hit the 2 key instead of the 4 key, obviously. Yeah, so this thing, it's pretty awesome. I'm really excited for it. The trick to it taking off in this, it seems that if you throttle up too fast, it doesn't like to gain speed. So you have to throttle up very, very, very slowly in order for it to actually properly gain speed so that you can take off in it. So in reality, this thing never really had proper flight. They basically were supposed to be taxiing this thing on the water here at Long Beach, California. And they were just supposed to move it from one location to another in the water, and then Howard Hughes, the guy who, basically led the creation of this plane, ended up getting fast enough that he could at least take off of the water, and he didn't get very high up. He only got, it was 25 feet, and he only did it for, half a mile, but he proved that the plane could fly despite all of the people saying that it would never fly and that it was incapable of it and everything. Howard Hughes is a very interesting man. He lived a very interesting life, and of course, the Spruce Goose is probably the thing he's most well known for. There is like a biopic on him, and I highly recommend checking it out. But let's go ahead before we talk more about that. Let's check out the controls and everything for this. So a lot of these controls in here are going to be inoperative, as you'd probably expect to find out a lot of other aircraft. We've got some more aesthetic stuff. So you got things like the canopy handle, and you've got the windows. You do need to keep these closed at a certain altitude, otherwise having these open seems to cause the aircraft to crash, which is kind of weird. Even at like lower altitudes, you'd think you'd be able to have them open. Obviously, you can have open top biplane go a lot higher than this thing does with those windows open. So I guess that's a bug, presumably. But you've got things like auto shutdown and APU off and electricity off and stuff. We'll keep the electricity on. You've got pitch trim. One thing that I find kind of unique in this is that you've got 3 things for pitch trim. So you've got that one here. You've got 2 controls for trim and stuff over here, one on the pilot and one on the co-pilot. And then this one's operational, but you've also got this one above the pilot's steering wheel, which is kind of fascinating to me. And then, there's a bunch of controls here. Now, compared to, say, a modern plane of the size, like a 747 or a 737 or something, commercial airliner of, modern day, the controls for the pilot and co-pilot are extremely basic. It really, you're probably going to find more complicated controls in like a Cessna nowadays. And this thing is huge. This thing's, it's like the length of a football field, American football field, for its wingspan. And it's supposed to be like 5 stories high, I think they said approximately, which is insane. So it's a huge plane, and it's, it's got such a basic control, which is really fascinating, at least for the pilot and co-pilot. Now, here's the thing. The controls aren't really that basic. So if we kind of look around, we've got all of our different camera controls. It's really this back seat here where the controls get really complicated. So this is where the controls get complicated. So this is our basically maintenance guy, I guess you could say, in a sense. This is the guy who does all the controls for the engines and stuff. And there's still a lot of operational controls and stuff, but this is your fuel gauges for each independent engine. So there's 8 different engines on this thing. Your coolant temperatures, your warning lights, your ignitions, your fuel mixtures, and your oil radiator flaps, all that stuff is back here. Your throttles, so tons and tons and tons of controls and gauges that this one person has to monitor. And this alone is kind of sort of a lot, trying to watch all these gauges for 8 different gauges at once. Of course, if everything's working right, everything should be in the same position, so any sort of differences is probably going to stand out. If one of these dials in a row is off a position, then it's probably going to be a good indicator if they're moving a whole lot while you're in flight. But still, that's it's crazy, because, again, that's not everything. You've got stuff like these are all inoperative, but you've got your fuel gauges, and you've got, calibration stuff, refueling stuff. You've got fire warnings and firefighting equipment and stuff. You've got your starters for the APU. Yeah, just tons and tons and tons of stuff in here. It's pretty crazy. Let's go ahead, though. Let's take a look at the rest of the aircraft. So, not a huge amount of stuff in the aircraft, but still, it's, for the interior, it's pretty good. We've got some cups saying the Evergreen Aviation and Space Museum, which is where the Spruce Goose is currently stored. I don't know if this coffee machine or water dispenser or whatever this is supposed to be was in the plane originally when it took flight. I do believe, I think all these seats were, though. I'm not 100% positive. They have added, a bunch of stuff, obviously, but they did. I think they actually had this for like the initial taxi or whatever, because they had like news reporters and stuff covering the event. And then you've got your radio equipment back here. So you got your radio compass and receivers and stuff. And you've got Howard Hughes' hat. At least I'm pretty sure that's what that's supposed to be. So yeah, pretty awesome stuff. Let's go ahead. Let's start the aircraft up. So let's turn our APUs back on. We'll go through auto startup. So it starts up 2 engines at a time, which is pretty neat. You can see some floats down there. These things will, or these straps and this blocks will disappear once we actually go to take off. But when you're stationary on the water, those sit there for helping with stability, and there they go. They disappear, and you can see the thing drops down. So yeah, that tends to happen with a lot of flying boats I see, is obviously they tend to rock back and forth. So these side pontoons usually aren't hitting at the same time. And there's our last engines. We'll give those a second to pick up speed here, and we'll start getting ready to take off. Yeah, I love this thing, though. I mean, it's so crazy. So, this thing was made for World War II to transport troops as an alternative to troop ships, because supply ships and troop ships were getting sunk by German U-boats. And the German U-boats, obviously sinking these ships was bad, but the Allies wanted a alternative, so they said, hey, make us an airplane that can carry troops. And this thing, I saw the numbers, and I don't know if this is accurate. I don't know a huge amount about what this thing was really intended for in terms of carrying capacity, but I saw up to like 2 Sherman tanks, or you could carry like 750 soldiers on this thing, which is insane. So we're going to try and pick up speed here really slowly. See if we can get up to speed and actually take off in it here. It's kind of tricky. Like I said, you gotta go really slowly. You can see our speedometer here. So usually if we get past, 40 knots or whatever, then we're set to go. And let's see if it wants to acknowledge my throttle. There we go. Oh, that's right mouse button. Alright, so we're getting up to speed here. We'll keep climbing a little bit and just show this to you guys in third person so you guys can see this. Up to about 80. There we go. So obviously we've taken off. We're no longer making contact with the water. And we'll bring our flaps up. All right. So then what we need to do is we need to... Oh, are we making contact with water again? Did we lose speed? Oh, we're losing speed. Why are we losing airspeed? So yeah, see, this is where it's kind of tricky. So this thing is fully flight worthy. I'm not sure why we lost airspeed there. We were gaining it pretty well there for a minute, and then yeah, we started losing it. Now it's gaining again. So we're going to try and take off again. Normally I can get that in the first go once we're airborne, but I must have done something that caused us to lose airspeed here. Well, we'll keep this and try to gain that speed again here, see if we can take off. It could be because I strained the flaps out too soon, maybe. It doesn't really explain why we would have lost the speed, but I don't know what else would have happened there. Well, see, now we're losing speed again. Yeah, we should be going faster, obviously, and we're not. So, definitely not the easiest aircraft to take off in. I've seen it's kind of finicky, and you gotta do it just right, it seems like, for it to work. But, I mean, it definitely works. I mean, I've definitely taken off in this, like I said, several times, and so I'm a little bit surprised because I've not really had this happen before. Let's see if we can gain that speed back and get her, you know, up in the air again here. Actually, properly this time. See, maybe if I straighten her out, I can get the pontoon off of the one side and decrease drag a little bit in the water. I think that's it. Alright, well, we're airborne again. We'll see how long this lasts. We should be able to pick up speed. Now, the speedometer goes up to like 280. I'm not sure. I think the max speed's supposed to be like 250 for this thing. I don't know what the cruising speed is. It's not the fastest of planes. This thing's actually really heavy. So one of the interesting things, like I said, this was built for World War II, and we're losing speed. So let's kind of descend a little bit here. Try to gain that speed back or maintain the speed we have. So this thing was made for World War II, but because of restrictions on aircraft and stuff, they couldn't make it out of aluminum, so they couldn't use the lightest possible material, which, of course, on a craft this size would be important. It's a massive, massive aircraft, so having the lightest material possible would be ideal to put, you know, the least. And so one of the reasons it got the nickname Spruce Goose was because it was made out of wood and canvases and stuff. And so the aircraft was very heavy, and so no one thought it was going to fly, given the massive, massive size of the aircraft and the materials it was made out of. Everybody's like, oh, this thing won't be flight worthy. Now, obviously, we can see, hey, we're flying around. I mean, we shouldn't say that because obviously they've got the Microsoft, the Pelican from Halo and Microsoft Flight Simulator, and most tests of that show that it shouldn't actually be aerodynamic enough to fly in atmosphere realistically. But, you know, this thing did get, you know, airborne. So, yeah. One thing that always throws me off, though, is this this cockpit is like angled down, and so I'm always inclined to like think that this thing is actually like nosing down even when it's not. So like right now we're gaining altitude and it still looks like it's facing down towards the water with the way it's designed. There we go. So this should be fairly maintainable. We are actually losing speed a little bit here. Just barely. There we go. Okay, now it's going back up. Oh, well, it's going back up because we're going down. Sorry, I set up my trim controls on something that I don't play this enough to remember what I set them up on. Losing speed again. I did try to throttle up a little bit. Hopefully now that we're airborne, throttling up to max should be okay. We'll continue this slight descent here a little bit. We don't want to get too close to the water just because this thing is so massive. Even when it looks like you're not close to the water, in reality you actually are. Yeah, for some reason, I don't know why we're losing airspeed. It keeps happening. I think we're going to be on the water here in a second again, because yeah, we're going back down to 60, 70 knots. Yeah, we just made contact with the water again. Yeah, this is so weird. I've actually flown around with this, and I was flying around above the city, and we took off just fine, and now this time it just does not want to maintain airspeed, and I don't know what's going on. It's killing me because, like, I guess it's because we have to throttle at max, maybe, but I don't know. We'll give this one more shot here, guys, and we'll see what happens. You're back up to speed again. Let's put this back down. We're gonna be running out of time. There's land there. Actually, on that note, let's go ahead and start taking our rudder and moving over here a little bit. Lead some of our speed off, but we should be able to beat that easily enough, probably. Yeah, man, I just don't know why this isn't going to take off here. This is not ideal for a video. Like I said, guys, I've had all sorts of issues with this video. And maybe if any of you guys are watching this and you've played with the Spruce Goose in Microsoft Flight Simulator, let me know if you know, if you guys have any advice for me in taking off in this thing. Like I said, I mean, I've managed to take off, and just in my experience, it's just avoiding throttling up too quickly seems to be the key to actually taking off, but maintaining airspeed seems to be an issue this time for some reason, and I don't quite know why this is happening. And again, you can see, I mean, throttling up and down and stuff, and you know, we're throttling up and it starts gaining airspeed and then just seems to lose it for some reason. I'm not sure what's going on. We didn't mess with any of the mixtures or anything while we're back there. I know it's bouncing over everything, but yeah, all the mixtures and everything should all still be set correctly. Everything appears to be in line and even, so I don't think I touched anything back there. Our APUs are on, our auto startup has been done, our electronics are on. I really don't know what's causing this. Oh, that's what those are too. Unrelated. Well, somewhat unrelated. I just, there was these side curtains here, and I couldn't figure out what these controls did because they didn't seem to work. They control these curtains way back here. It's kind of random. It seems like we've also taken off. Yeah, we're just taking off now, apparently, while I'm, like, looking at other things. I guess that's going to happen now. Yeah, it's throttled down so much, but now we're at enough speed that we're just taking off. And now it's starting to nose down. Now it's actually still climbing. Like I said, it's kind of misleading. We're still gaining speed, so I guess we'll see what happens here. I guess we'll keep it at like half throttle if that's gonna work. Yeah, this thing's so cool though. I mean, it's a cool looking aircraft. Because it's a flying boat, it's very sleek looking and everything. Man. Yeah, we're losing speed. We're also kind of angling a little bit here, which is not terrible, but do we try throttling up? Yeah, this thing should be capable of going much faster than what it's doing, so I'm not really sure what's going on here. Let's turn off the yoke visibility for just a second. Let's see, it's bleeding speed off again. Oh, I guess I had my pitch trim still, and that's probably why we actually took off when we gained that speed. Trimmed a little too much, I guess. There's our vertical speed. Oh wow, yeah, speed's dropping really really rapidly now. We were just over 100. Now it's dropping back down to like 80 or 90. Okay, there we go. It seems to be holding steady-ish here. I'm a little hesitant to say that. And granted, we're in a turn too, so that's probably causing us to bleed some of the speed off. I'm trying to bring us back around towards the mainland here. Not quite to the point where we can straighten her out. But yeah, I mean, if you're half decent with this thing, it's definitely flight worthy. I mean, it's definitely something you can take out and fly around and stuff. Like I said, I'm definitely having issues. It's not necessarily the easiest thing to fly, but it is definitely possible to fly it, as you guys are seeing. I mean, it's 100% possible to fly this thing. There's no question of that. And yeah, this is just, like I said, this is such an interesting plane. I think that's part of what makes I really wonder, I should say, I think what makes this plane so interesting is that there's not just the size and the question of whether or not it could fly, but also the aspect of the drama surrounding it and stuff. You know, you had Senate hearings about this plane. You had, you know, the man behind it, you know, Howard Hughes. You know, he wasn't the only one who made the plane, obviously, but he was definitely kind of the man that made this a lot more interesting than it would have been if it was anybody else, I think. And I think there's a lot of those aspects, and I think that if the Spruce Goose had actually taken flight and it went into production for the military and, you know, was used to transport troops and cargo and stuff, you know, I think it probably still would have been a popular aircraft because it is massive still, but I think it would not nearly be as famous or as much of a household name because, you know, even before I really got into like aviation and stuff to like any real extent, before I played any flight simulators or anything like that, just like I knew the name Spruce Goose. Like it's kind of a household name in the US at least. Not everybody knows it, but a lot of people know it, you know, more than you would expect for it being an aircraft from the 40s. And I think that's pretty awesome, but I do think that part of that's simply because it never actually flew. And I think if we'd seen a bunch of these and they did fly, maybe it wouldn't be so famous. I think people would be a little bit more indifferent to it. So, I mean, we're maintaining speed and stuff now for the most part. I mean, we've dropped a little bit down again, but I mean, we're still turning and maneuvering and stuff like that. The trick definitely seems to be just try and fly in a straight line if you can, and don't throttle up too much at least. I mean, we've throttled up a little bit. I think I also need to quit clicking the right button when I throttle up, because I think that's probably not helping either, because it kind of like snaps into position, and I think that might be messing with the aircraft a little bit. Let's see here, we throttled up, let's see if we actually gain speed, because right now we're losing speed. We're also gaining altitude. So let's lower our pitch trim just a teeny tiny bit. That should still have us gaining altitude. And yeah, you can see the city there in the background. Still pretty far out. We got really far on that water just driving around on the water, basically. That was not actual flight time for the most part. I mean, we had a little bit of flight time in there, but not much. Yeah, I love this design. I like that it's simplistic and still works like this, you know? And it's cool getting into a more advanced aircraft like a 737, or like I said, even, you know, the modern Cessnas and stuff, and having all the really cool avionics equipments and switches and stuff all over the place. And I mean, this thing, for the time it flew, I mean, this was really impressive. I mean, if you look at other aircraft of the era, this thing, you know, it's got a lot of stuff going on, especially if you look back there. But again, compared to like a modern day aircraft, yeah, this feels like nothing, you know. I just wish I knew how to like fully utilize the speed on this thing, because like I said, I don't know what the average cruising speed of this thing is, but I'm pretty sure it's supposed to be higher than what we're actually going here. And I feel like we should be able to do that while gaining just the smallest amount of elevation. I mean, we are gaining altitude, but just barely. I forgot we do have the flaps extended still. Let's fix that. I need to adjust the pitch trim here. It looks like it'll probably go down just a teeny bit. We'll just adjust it up just a teeny tiny bit. Let's see, that might... having the flaps up might help with speed a little bit too. I mean, granted, I've said that before, and then we end up losing speed and then crashing back down into the water. Thankfully, it wasn't an actual crash. It was slow enough that it was a landing. And we're bleeding speed off again. Oh, there we go. Okay, it's fine. But yeah, it's going up and down, and yeah, we don't have quite full throttles, but we've got higher on the throttles, and I definitely still feel like we should be going faster, but I don't know. We are flight worthy though, and I mean, it's fun, and I think that's one of the things that makes this plane a little bit more interesting too, is I don't necessarily want to be a perfect flight. I think that when it's kind of challenging to actually take off and fly around with this thing, that's part of what makes it fun. The city doesn't look super great from here. Might need to tweak the LODs and stuff. I think I lowered stuff for YouTube recordings because it was just eating up a bunch of processing stuff at the time, or I was having issues. I think it was actually a graphics card driver update issue that was causing me issues at the time, but we're still recording this because even then Microsoft Flight Simulator can be a little bit of a piggy when it comes to recording and eating up CPU and stuff like that, so we're just we're gonna stick with the settings we have because it's running fairly smooth. The aircraft still looks really good. Not quite as photorealistic as I would perhaps like it to be, but yeah, it's still good. The cruise ship's looking a lot better already, but the cruise ship is actually a asset place down, which is kind of weird to me. That you have this like modern cruise ship, and then next to it you've got like a cruise ship from the the turn of the century, like the early 1900s or something, probably. I don't know the exact year. And then it looks like crap compared to the ship right next to it. It kind of ruins things a little bit because you've got a really nice looking asset right next to a satellite generated one. It just looks kind of like garbage. This does not look super good here, but yeah, I think it's still loading in. I think this stuff could look a lot better once we get over it a little bit more, but maybe not. I don't know. It looks like stuff's still popping in as we come up over the area here. All the houses and stuff, like there's a bunch of residential housing that's over here, and I flew over and it looks pretty freaking nice. Our altitude might be a little too low for that to be the case, but yeah, for some reason it just seems to not really want to like load the stuff in until the last second here, until we're actually like flying over it. Because now, I mean, it doesn't look amazing, but it looks a lot better flying over this stuff. Like all these cargo containers and stuff improved a lot better when we got a lot closer to them. The cranes don't really look very good, unfortunately. It's just one of those things, you know, cranes and bridges and stuff that have like open gaps and like big area. The game just doesn't really know how to handle those. But yeah, thankfully, I mean, we seem to be flying okay though and everything. I don't really know what else to say about this, and like I said, it's a cool plane. I really wanted to show it off because it's a personal favorite of mine. And I think it's really awesome, but there's a lot of cool new planes, so if you guys are into like any iconic vintage aircraft, this new update's going to be really awesome for you. Like I said, the DC-3, the Spirit of St. Louis, there's a lot of cool aircraft, you know, the Wright brothers plane, of course. So that's all pretty freaking awesome. I'm pretty excited for that. You know, and then I think there was actually a new 737 variant added. Whoa, okay. Is that the aileron trim I just kicked in? All of a sudden, just shifting rapidly on me. That was weird. It was just like tilted really hard left all of a sudden, relative to how we were going. Kind of caught me off guard. But I think we're gonna end it here, guys. Now we're over the visually nice part of the city and the interesting part, you know, with all the buildings and stuff. This is where it looks a lot better. This is where Microsoft Flight Simulator really shines and stuff. Is seeing like smaller residential housing and stuff. It doesn't always do so great with skyscrapers and stuff. Bing doesn't handle those very well, but they do a pretty good job with smaller structures and stuff like that, especially when you're a little bit higher up. We're a little bit lower than I think ideal, but maybe like another couple hundred feet or even like 1,000 feet, it would probably look really good. But even then, I mean, this, like, these parks and stuff here look fantastic, and the neighborhood still looks pretty good up here. You can see some of the flaws or some of the issues in the detail, but for the most part, it's getting pretty close to photorealistic here, and it's pretty gorgeous. A lot better than over there in the industrial section and like the section with all the skyscrapers and stuff in downtown. Alright guys, well anyways, yeah, this is the H4 Hercules, aka the Spruce Goose, and Microsoft Flight Simulator. So let me know if you guys like the video, and let me know if you guys want to see more Microsoft Flight Simulator. I had initially planned on doing more of the H-145 Airbus helicopters, doing some more firefighting or EMS rescue stuff in there, and that's initially why I'd gotten on and saw this update and wanted to do the Spruce Goose instead. So there will probably be some of that some point down the road. I don't know when. I haven't had a chance to record that, so it could be a while. It might not be. We'll see how things go. But if that is something you guys are interested in seeing, let me know in the comments below. And of course, if that is the case, it'll probably get done sooner rather than later. Alright guys, thanks for watching. Take it easy, and we'll see you in the next one.